and welcome to Swim Chats, a podcast about swimming. I'm Shona Riddell, a writer, former journalist and swimmer from Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. For each episode, I talk to a different guest from our swim community. Please hit the follow button so you don't miss an episode, and share the link with a friend or two. And if you'd like to make a contribution, you can go to patreon.com/swimchats to find out more. Liana, welcome to Swim Chats. It's really good to have you. I'll just quickly mention that I have two dogs and sometimes they like to pop in and out while I'm recording. So
Even more of an honour to be here in that case.
If I disappear for a minute, I am still here. I'm just opening and shutting the door. Yeah, they have no respect for my recording time.
No worries at all.
I was thinking, I think I first came across your name earlier this year on Phil Rush's Instagram page, of all places.
Funny, yeah.
Because he supported you in your big swim, right?
Yeah, well, I've gone with Phil for all of my swims so far, so all of the 3 Triple Crowns and everything.
Oh, wow. Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah, you've done a lot of swimming. Congratulations on your Queenstown swim. Like, that was 46 kilometres, I read, so it's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, we should probably start in chronological order. So how old were you when you first started swimming?
So I really only properly got into it kind of around 7, 8, and it was purely to better my time for surf lifesaving. So moving through the ranks at the surf club, you had to do a 400-meter classic time trial in under a certain amount of minutes. And I was pretty rubbish. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll join the local club then. I was an absolute runty, scrawny little skin and bone child. So our classic local pool was an outdoor 33 1/3 situation. So I used to have to do trainings in a wetsuit and I'd be shaking and shivering. It's hilarious to think back to that now.
Whereabouts were you living then? Were you? I know you're in Queenstown now. Waiuku.
Yeah, or Glenbrook. Yeah, up in the North Island. And kind of didn't take me too long to really fall in love with the competitive swimming world. So kind of put the surf club and all that jazz on the back burner, and swimming became my life, really. Got into it big time, moving up through my adolescent years, and then had a spinal fusion at age 17. So I was just kind of getting to the cusp of my youth career, was on a couple of New Zealand teams, had a New Zealand record, swaddles of, national titles and the like. And then, this back pain that I'd had recurring for about 3 years just got a little bit too much. And it was discovered that I had a spinal fracture or a stress fracture. So surgery was the only route. So at 17, went through that fiasco, and about 7 years out of the water. And then here we are, taking off some ultramarathons.
Amazing. So first of all, I'm really sorry that you went through that. That's a really young age to go through something so intense. And I know you've been very open about talking about it openly, which I'm sure helps a lot of people who have been through similar things. I know for swimmers, illnesses and injuries keep them out of the water, and it's a challenging time, and not necessarily something that people talk about a lot, but not easy to go through when your whole life is swimming and then suddenly you have to stop.
100%. It was a complete loss of identity for me. And at the time, I didn't have any of the tools or anything to cope with that very well. So I went on a pretty horrific mental health journey there. And, it was 7 years, quite literally, that I had a full swimming hiatus. And it was actually Wakatipu that got me falling back in love with the sport. So that's been a really beautiful full circle journey to kind of.
You're out of the water for 7 years. That's a long time. Did you expect to get back in the water, or at the time did you feel like that was it in terms of your swimming journey?
Definitely felt like that was it on the competitive swimming side. And with the swimming world at such a young age, you kind of have to live and breathe it to get to any level. So swimming really was all that I did, and I was very happy to do so. You hear some stories about it being the parents that force the kids out of bed at 5 a.m. kind of thing, but thankfully that was never my case. It was a genuine love for me. But there was this whole side of life that I never got a chance to have really. So stopping swimming gave me a chance to go traveling and live this crazy adventurous life. And I became a hiking guide, and that became my career. And I kind of just followed a life of getting paid to have fun. It was incredible. Didn't know that was out there. And then COVID
Yeah.
happened. I kind of realized, oh, if I'm stuck here in New Zealand, hypothetically with COVID, I might as well try and do some other weird and wonderful jobs. So I became a high country shepherd up on the Crown Range in Queenstown. And yeah, while I was there, I was kind of thinking, oh, I might as well, well, there's this beautiful lake here in my backyard. I might as well see if I can still swim. So I joined up with the local wonderful Southern Lake Swim Club. And I very vividly remember my first day heading out with them all. Went up there pretty nervous, was pretty honest. Hey, look, I haven't swum for 7 years. So they were very kind about, hey, look, we'll stick right beside you. You won't be on your own. Oh, this is great. Amazing bunch of people. And then kind of just zipped away. And they're like, well, you didn't tell us you were a great swimmer before not having swum for 7 years. And yeah, since then it was just a really beautiful journey falling back in love with the sport, let alone the lake and everything down here.
It sounds really beautiful down there. So you were swimming in the lake, and people were realizing how fast you were, and it was feeling good. So how did you go from doing that to the Triple Crown? Like, was that a big jump for you?
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, the longest I'd ever swum was 10K, and that was 9 odd years ago. But one of those New Zealand teams that I was on was actually a open water one. And funnily enough, back in the day, Phil Rush was the New Zealand coach for it. So I actually knew Phil when I must have been about 15 or so. And that was the first 10 kilometre I ever did, was on the team over in Aussie for that. And yeah, it was just getting back in the water, feeling good, started training pretty seriously in the pool. I kind of thought, well, I'm not really got much else going on. I might as well see if I can chase some old dreams of mine. So I called Phil up, and I remember saying, hey, look, you probably don't remember me, but you took me through my first 10K, and I'm back in the water, and I'm wanting to do the Triple Crown. And so it was a proper full circle moment for both of us, really. So he's been with me the whole journey, which has been really special, in terms of having a team that you can completely trust and rely on, let alone the respect element, because what an absolute legend, as you know.
Yeah. You not only decided that you wanted to do one epic swim, you decided 3 epic swims. So what was it about the Triple Crown in particular?
Back in the day when I was competitive, there was only about 6 people who'd done it at that stage, and it was just one of those things that was so ridiculous to think of people doing that I thought it was epic. Thought it'd never be for me. And I think just the audacity of it really tickled me. And it's just what made me think, what's the harm in giving it a crack? And then all these all these years later, there was so many more people that had started doing their own journeys. I thought, maybe I can have a shot. And yeah, Phil was always super on board and super excited about me having a crack. And so it kind of just became a no-brainer. And he was very well aware that the circumstances of COVID meant he didn't have his thousands of people coming for the Cook Strait out of the Ocean Seven, and us Kiwis had a great shot at ticking off the swims, just as the domestic market. And so it was just this perfect circumstance of all these different things that came together, and I was able to take some time off guiding, and away we went, following this journey for 12 months and 3 big swims.
Incredible. And what order did you do them in?
So I did Taupo first, and then had, I think it was 3 weeks later, was in for Cook Strait. And then about 7 months later, had Foveaux. So we did, yeah, 10K swim, 9 years later, a 40K swim, outrageous. And then the other two.
And not only that, but you hold the world record, right, for your Foveaux Strait swim. Is that
Yeah.
correct? 6 hours and 19 minutes. Amazing. And not many people have done the Triple Crown. From what I've read, only 12 people have done it on record, I think. And you were the 8th
Yeah, which is pretty awesome.
from the list. So yeah, it's a pretty a limited edition, limited edition list. Brianna was number 12, I think, earlier this year. I've talked to her about her experiences. Yeah, for some reason, like there
Oh,
were a few
cool. Yeah.
people who did it in the 1980s, and then there was like a 20-year gap between. So I don't know if that was Phil
Yeah.
Rush getting bored and being like, okay, Triple Crown, everybody, let's go.
Yeah, well, it was also Chloe, Dan and Abel, or Fit and Abel Chloe, had a big part in kind of re-instigating it all when she went down to Foveaux, kind of had to do all of her own logistics and research. I think we can really thank her in a lot of ways for getting the Triple Crown back in action in the, mid 2000s kind of thing. Because, yeah, I think from memory, she was the first one after that 20-odd year gap.
Wow. And so doing Triple Crown, you would have been doing literally thousands of strokes. So as a swimmer, I'm curious to ask you what your technique tips are for freestyle. Like what gets you across such a large body of
Oh,
water so quickly?
just a whole lot of luck in terms of tide and weather conditions, obviously. And I think
I think you're being
just
modest.
for me, having that mental capacity to really, know that you're going to be in a lot of hurt and suffering and accept it and push through it and kind of enjoy it in a sadistic sort of way. Um, I'm quite lucky that I do have an ability to slip into a bit of a flow state quite easily, which is pretty awesome. So I do get that sense of kind of meditative relief, I guess, in amongst it all. So I kind of don't have to think about each stroke. For Cook Strait, we had a pretty horrific day, so it was incredibly swelly for my Cook Strait Classic. And so I was very well aware of every single action on that swim. But such is the way of the Cook Strait, being such a beast.
So I've heard, yeah. And so this is something I always ask marathon swimmers, when you're swimming through rough conditions, how do you sort of change your stroke or change your position in the water, or do you just sort of keep doing the same thing that you would normally do?
Keep doing the same thing, and I kind of try and remind myself that the water isn't wanting to fight me, so don't fight it back. So I let myself go with the waves as much as I can, go with the swell, and kind of try and ride that pattern in terms of breathing with the swell, not trying to fight my head up and throwing it around and thrashing you away kind of thing. Sometimes it is the
You
only
get
way
that?
that works, though.
Yeah,
But
that's
I
good
kind of go
advice.
into the
Yeah.
swims with a lot of respect for the water, and I think that's pretty crucial. Sounds silly, but I think it's crucial for me
No,
anyway.
yeah, that makes sense. And so you don't feel seasick at all when you're in those more turbulent conditions?
Thankfully not yet anyway. On my Cook Strait, everyone apart from my mother was feeding the fish, but I was totally fine being actually in the swell, not on top of it, which was very lucky. They all had a horrific day.
And so then earlier this year, you swam, and I think you were the first person in the world to do the swim from Queenstown to Glenorchy. So what made you decide to tackle that route?
Well, it was always an attempt of the entire Lake Wakatipu. So Google would have you believe it's 85K, but it's actually about 74. Now that we know that from mapping it with Mike Cochrane's fancy technology. But it was really just the case of being in the water so much, training for the Triple Crown, living in Queenstown, and realizing no one had attempted to swim since 2012 when local Wellington man Ben did it himself. He had two attempts in following regulation in togs, but then he finally got it swimming north in a wetsuit. And I don't know, it just kind of didn't sit well with me that no one had given it a crack since 2012. It's such a beautiful bit of water, and why not have a go? So it was always an attempt. So very much training up again for a second attempt this coming February. So it's been a big year and a half of swimming at the moment. But yeah, and I would say as well, it was actually a Kinloch start. So it was Kinloch to Queenstown. There's a crucial 2.5 odd K there difference.
Every kilometre counts. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
The pictures and video I saw, the conditions, it just looked beautiful, and
Yeah, at
I
the
was curious
start.
to ask at the start,
Yeah,
yeah,
it didn't
important,
stay
yeah.
like that.
I noticed that you're wearing a sort of white substance on your skin. Like, what is that? And does that keep you any warmer in the water, or is that more sun
No,
protection?
yeah, that white stuff is pseudocreme, which is, I think, still the highest percentage of zinc that you can get over the counter. I think in America they have a different brand with a slightly higher level that you can get, but it's also, I think, a baby rash product, a nappy rash product, but that's kind of the best thing that most people use for sun protection. I'm very pale. I learnt my lesson down in Foveaux and got pretty much second, third degree burns on my shoulders and my arms. And
Oh, wow.
so yeah, I get painted up in that pseudo-cream, and then I also have a classic layer of grease rubbed on top, and that acts as a light insulation, especially over kidneys, and the like.
Cool. Good to know. And now I have a listener question from my Patreon subscriber, Rachel, because I said I was going to be
Fabulous.
talking to you. And so she said, Wakatipu is known to be windy and cold. How did you cope with the wind, or did you choose a day when it was at your back?
No, well, that was kind of the thing that put the swim as a Queenstown finish, not a Kingston finish, unfortunately. So we were forecast for a beautiful northerly wind, which would be right at my back and pushing me along and be a great assist, which is a wonderful thought to have. Instead, it swapped to the classic Queenstown southerly. That is almost every day we get that. So I had about, I think it was about the first 4 or 5 hours just like glass, not a lick of wind, like all those photos. It was incredible and really was like magic. And then we got the first headwind, and that really zonkered a lot of strength. There was a lot of slop. I wouldn't even describe it as nice swells able to read and ride. It was just very, washy and sloppy. Then turned a corner. At that stage, it was about dusk, and then we got the second headwind, and it was kind of I think it was a southwesterly, so it was coming at me from the front and the side, and that was a real brutal point. So that's what I was maintaining my stroke rate, but that's what zonkered my strength completely. So I just had no power left under the water in the end. So Phil very much gave me the grace and the respect of saying, "Hey, look, I think we might have a Queenstown finish on our hands, but have a think of it and come back after the next speed." And yeah, in the end, that's what we decided. But cold wise, I was really lucky. We were all kind of a bit unsure about how it was going to work for hypothermic conditions wise, but obviously the natural blubber that I've got on me and all the cold water adaptation work I did paid off. And yeah, I was totally fine the whole time, even night swimming. I was, yeah, super happy. I was swimming all through the night till 6 a.m. in the end. I had, a bit of shivers for about 5 minutes on the boat after the swim, but no crazy after drop, no nothing. It was all a bit, you know, disappointing really on that regard. It was pretty boring.
Oh, anticlimactic.
Incredibly
So
so.
what,
Thank God.
I imagine you did quite a bit of like acclimatization as part of your training. Did that just involve a lot of lake swimming to prepare your body, or did you do any additional sort of cold water prep?
Yeah, lots of ice baths. Had a bit of a DIY situation in the garden at home that I'd go in almost every other day that I could. And there was quite a few companies that have popped up in Queenstown now that have cold water and sauna plunge therapies. So made use of all them as well. And yeah, otherwise just a lot of hours in the lake, just mentally adjusting and physically adjusting as well.
So an ice bath is below 5 degrees, I imagine. So would you just sort of sit in it for longer periods?
Yeah, pretty much. And I'd try and do some work keeping my head in, do some breathing exercises, all that good stuff. Like I said, mine was a very DIY situation. So I was never really sure what temperature it was at. So I'd kind of just work with what I had and refill it as often as I could afford to. But also lots of the other New Zealand crew have done their own incredible home jobs of ice baths. So I was trying to work on some of those as well, but we'll see how we go for this year.
Must take a lot of mental fortitude as well as physical training to prepare for the colder water, but also swimming through the night and swimming such a long distance. I feel like I would struggle to be in my own head for that period of time. But you were saying you go into a sort of meditative state, which would help. What's it like
Yeah,
swimming at
completely.
night?
I love night swimming. I reckon it's actually more preferable for me anyway than in the daytime because you're forced into a sensory deprivation essentially, and you can only just see the barest glimmers of lights from your support boats. We were all very clear that, look, no loud noises, no loud music. Talk to me softly and stuff. I might be yelling at you, I don't know. But it was, yeah, from the get go, that was kind of the plan that we had in place. And it's a it's a really beautiful feeling. And during my swim, I was kind of having classic quite short feeds and wasn't really too focused on my surroundings apart from just staring into the nothingness below me. But there was one particular feed that must have been about the 2 a.m. mark. And I'd set on my feed plan, we were having mostly hot feeds because of the temperature situation. But I said on the feed plan I wanted surprise noodles at some point in the night, just for a bit of different flavour going on. And so I got my noodles handed to me, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to really enjoy these. So I took the goggles off and floated on my back and was sucking down these beef noodles. And it was the first time that I got to look up and see the stars. And it was just an incredible evening of it. And that was a moment that I'll probably never forget, to be honest. And I definitely remember thinking, oh, there's probably very few people that have experienced this particular moment of time of floating in Lake Wakatipu, eating beef noodles, stargazing.
I love that detail. Yeah, like you say, it would be something that not many people get to experience.
Yeah,
And and time, do you sort of lose all sense of time when you're swimming
completely.
through the night? Yeah.
Yeah, for me anyway, I'll get the little wave over to come get a feed. I'll be, oh, God, that's another 30 minutes going by, and I had in my mind that, when I was going through the night bit, I was kind of, before the swim, I was working with this idea of 6 hours of suckiness and then it's all going to be okay. And so when the night hit, I was like, all right, it's just 6 hours of suck and then it's sweet. And then after 4 hours, I was like, oh no, I've already forgotten that I thought this was going to be horrible and I was just having a really good time.
It's always good when things go better than you anticipate, right?
Ah,
It's
absolutely.
a nice surprise. Do you prefer lake swimming to sea swimming?
I actually both enjoy them for their own individual challenges, to be honest. I wouldn't say I've got a preference for one or the other. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, the ocean swimming, you've got the tidal assistance, but you also got the fight against it in the other half, got the added buoyancy, you got the uh, sea critters either coming to play or having some fun with you. But yeah, lake swimming, obviously different views around you. You're encompassed by mountains for the most part. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a 50-50 fan. I'm very Switzerland on it.
I've seen some Instagram reels as well, I think from your page where you do some cross training in the gym. Um,
Yeah.
for swimmers, what sort of exercises do you find beneficial?
Yeah, and I've got a big focus on strength and conditioning this time round just to try and build up a whole lot of endurance in my long lever so that hopefully we don't lose that power under the water again. So I've got a great PT coach and a whole physio team that have been looking after me very well. But and I'm also not any degree of qualified here, but for me personally, I can talk to. It's a whole lot of the classic rotator cuff, all the minor shoulder stabilitators, and then lat strength, and just trying to get that nice, strong, stable pull, nice, strong forearms, the occasional work on my lower body and glutes, and then a lot of core control as well. Just keeping that body position nice and high in the water.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I also was reading something about I think it was called the Lake Attack in 2023. It was a couple of years ago, where there was a challenge for people to swim as many lakes in the South Island as possible,
Yeah.
to just encourage people to get into the southern lakes.
Hmm.
And you were part of that, and I read that you hiked for 3 days or something by yourself to get to a particular lake. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, it was so the Southern Lakes Club and the Wanaka Club had a couple of years where each club would settle this, challenge for both of our clubs, and that, yeah, just happened to be one of them. It was, yeah, it's been a great kind of camaraderie. I wouldn't say rivalry, camaraderie between us both. And yeah, the Lake Challenge was probably the most popular. I had always wanted to go up to this place called Lake Unknown. I probably would not advise it to listeners. It's very much an incredibly technical place to get to. It's not a happy jaunt out on, nice, well maintained trails. It's very much route finding and very technical terrain. Incredibly beautiful. And yeah, while I was up there, I was like, perfect. I'll just have a swim. Happened to remember the challenge. I was like, oh, perfect. I'll make sure I log this one. And then it became this, yeah, quite a big to do. I think Wilderness Mag did an article about it. I was kind of like, oh, I just went for a pretty cool hike and just had a swim.
It's a great name for a lake, Lake Unknown.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of helicopter companies that sometimes do little scenic drop-offs there, but it's a pretty gnarly spot to traverse to, but so epic if people have the skills and the knowledge in the backcountry to get up there.
And yeah, so let's talk about your hiking. You mentioned that it's become a career for you, which is really cool. And I imagine it would be a good counterbalance to swimming as well, because it's good weight bearing and balance, which is something we don't always get in the water.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
what sort of hiking do you do? Like which parts of the country are you in?
So all over the country really, and I was lucky enough to with the company that I'm actually just about to go for a trip with again, was able to go over to Nepal for a couple of seasons as well, and guide over in the Himalaya too, which was just incredible. But I think for me, the really awesome correlation between the swimming and hiking is that when I'm out in the bush, I can just be lost in my head for hours, and so it's kind of like a chance to do mental training without being in the water, and I think that's what really helped me mentally decide to commit to the Wakatipu attempt was I was actually traveling for about 10 months on my own and was, yeah, out hiking for the most part. So I had a lot of time to think and get in my own head about, do I think I can do this? Do I want to do this? And came back to Phil with a resounding heck yeah.
And I bet Phil was very encouraging.
Very much so.
It's very cool. And I know that you've also entered the New Zealand Ice Championships in the past. It
Yeah.
seems to be a natural sort of progression for ultramarathon swimmers in New Zealand to be like, okay, I've done the Triple Crown, and now, next challenge is sort of sub 5 degree water, and see how I go on that. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, no, it was I don't wanna say it was just a bit of fun for me, but it that kinda was my mindset going into it, I absolutely appreciate that it is a technical thing and people put a lot of time and passion into it, but I'm not normally in New Zealand for the winters. I normally follow the sun around the world and have an endless summer, so it was only the pure chance that I happened to be still here training up for second attempt of Wakatipu that I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll follow my friends to the ice champs and just have a bit of a blast." And yeah, I loved it. It was great fun. It's pretty pretty unique, I'd definitely say, in terms of the world of the swimming things.
And I know that when you do your swims, you like to raise money for I Am Hope charity. So would you like to talk a bit about I Am Hope and what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. So they do a lot of work for youth mental health across New Zealand, helping fund counselling sessions in general, but also just research into talks at schools and explaining emotions, which sounds really silly, but helping kids understand maybe what they're feeling and why they're feeling it, which I think is a crucial step this day and age with technology and climate and everything going on in our world. And I think just having the tools to understand why they might be feeling the way they are is an amazing part of what they do, let alone the counselling side of it, which is crucial. But yeah, I Am Hope was just kind of quite a natural choice for me when kind of was going through the phases of deciding to do the Triple Crown and realized, if I've had a 7 year kind of hiatus, there's probably going to be a few people from my swimming past who are quite intrigued by my comeback at this level, who are going to want to follow along somehow. So that's really how I figured I'd start these social media pages. And I figured if I was going to swim, I'll swim for something. It's how the name came about. And I wouldn't say it came naturally or easily to me posting about myself. So that's definitely been a huge learning curve, very much still learning. And it's been a really beautiful journey of getting so much support. And yeah, I don't know who I'll choose to support for the next swim, but it's been really cool to kind of correlate that mental health chapter of my life with the swimming that I'm doing now.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. And we can link to the Swim for Something page in the show notes so people can visit your page and learn more about you and I Am Hope and
Yeah, cool.
everything. Yeah, I find from my own experience, like talking about any sort of mental health struggles, mostly people really appreciate it because, yeah, a lot of people go through different challenges, right? And just sometimes hearing
Absolutely.
about someone else's experience, yeah, just means that you feel like you've got more support out there, more
Yeah.
understanding.
Oh, and don't get me wrong, I'm definitely not a professional in anything by any means, really. But especially in that regard of just, yeah, like you say, I kind of realized, if I'm going to be showing people what I'm doing, I've got to really show the whole story of how I came to get here in terms of my swimming and all that jazz. So that was a pretty big part of it, in terms of how and why I stopped my competitive career. And so it's been
Yeah.
really cool the amount of people that have reached out on that regard. But there's definitely been a part of me that has found it difficult to ride the wave of, I'm not a professional. This is just me sharing my story in a pretty, classic Kiwi, pretty awkward fashion, but I'm trying my best.
And so we talked earlier about how, you know, injuries and, illnesses can keep people out of the water sometimes for a long time. And so, I, like, not to put you on the spot, but what sort of advice would you give to somebody who is listening now, possibly, and going through that and wondering if they're going to get back in the water? Like, was there something that kept you going at the time?
I so really empathize, and I have a lot of respect for people going through that journey because it just sucks. And not having a light at the end of the tunnel was a horrible feeling. But I think just want to find something else to sink your teeth into that you can do at the time was crucial for me. If I didn't have the outdoors to fall into, I don't know where I would have gotten personally. So I was very lucky in that regard. And knowing that it's not going to be forever, or hopefully not, and hopefully you can adapt to a different new, even if you can't get back to the level that you might have been. Maybe there's a different level that you can get to, and that's super exciting. You never know where that's going to take
Yeah.
you. I definitely never thought ultra marathons were in my future, but here we are. So yeah, you never know what's around the corner, which is the amazing thing about life, really, right?
Well, that's awesome. It's very inspiring how much you've done, especially in such a short amount of time. Yeah, so congratulations again. Is there is there anything else you want to talk about that we haven't already covered? Like any other
No,
swims you've done?
no, that's pretty much all I've done so far. But I'd love to say to swimmers out there listening, maybe just, if you're mainly based in a pool right now and you think open water's not for you, just give it a crack. Go find your local club, because I had no idea what a amazing open water community there was across New Zealand. Not just in the South Island, but there's some amazing people all across the country doing incredible swims. There's Kiwis that are just doing outrageous things every other day in the open water scene. So just give it a try. You're probably going to love it. So it might become a passion and a bit of a life obsession, so maybe get ready for that. But yeah, give it a crack.
That's really good advice. Yeah, like you say, you just never know where it's going to take you, right? It's this whole
Absolutely.
new of world. Yep. And we're so lucky in New Zealand that we have these different options and people that inspire us. And you're one of those people for
Completely.
me.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind to hear. I definitely wouldn't say I should be like that to anyone, but I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today, Liana. It's been nice meeting you. Hopefully, we can meet in person at some point. You mentioned that you're a sort of honorary spud bud. So does that mean you come to Wellington sometimes for swims?
I do. Yeah, no, I was living in Wellington while I was training up. So with the guiding, I used to be living in a van, so I kind of had a very transient gypsy lifestyle, which was awesome. So I was living in Queenstown, training up for Taupō, and then drove up to live in a couple of friends' driveways in Wellington, training up for the other two, and was lifeguarding up there at RAC. So I was just around the spud buds 24/7 essentially. But yeah, nowadays I kind of just pop up every now and then when I can with work. But yeah, the Wellington community will always have a huge part in my heart. I think the Spud Buds are a very special group of people, inspiring. And I think having Phil based in Wellington is just such a goldmine for, all Kiwi swimmers, let alone folks coming from overseas to kind of try and get some of his expertise and knowledge, because we're so lucky to have him still having such a passion for New Zealand open water.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. Hopefully we can meet in person at some point, maybe over the summer, maybe one of the southern
Absolutely.
lakes.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a pleasure. I'm honoured to be on the podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Swim Chats. Please remember to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you enjoyed it, you can leave a 5-star rating and review, which helps other people find it too. Enjoy the water, and we'll see you next time.